I always think it's a good idea to, you know how when you do papers for journals, at the top there's frequently something in very small print that nobody can read, which is the abstract. So it'll be like a short version of the paper. So for those who, which means the vast percentage of the world's population who have no interest at all in reading a full-length paper. They can read this little short one, and that will suffice. So I always think it's a good idea to do the shortest version of what I hope at least what I intend to talk about before I give it. So if you take away nothing else, you can. So how to talk, the short version. How to talk, the short version. Listen, and what I have to say. I think there's a way that the word listen frequently appears in our minds with an exclamation point after, as in, listen. And in the last 15 years of my life, I turned to a whole new career when I was somewhere. Actually, it's more than 15. It's much more. I started directing plays, in many cases, though not exclusively my own. And so I've faced a whole new set of challenges in trying to urge people to listen, because it's a lot of what directing comes to. At least it has been for me. And it's enormously challenging. I've found it to be. But I think I finally got around to learning something about listening from going through that and doing that. I think that I was an average listener, which meant that I didn't listen that well or that much. And then I started directing, plays, and I think I learned something there. Namely, that what it meant for me to listen was to listen as part of a process of creating something with the person to whom I was listening. That it wasn't just enough to want to really, really, really hear what someone else or some group of people was saying. I mean, that seems fine. I think that's a necessary condition, if you will, that way. But that I had to be, as a director, and also outside of the theater, also in listening, working to experience what the other person or persons were saying, so that I experience myself and them as participants in the creation of a play together. That's what I learned as a director. That I've sort of come to see life more as a play, not in the sense as fictional or necessarily even theatrical, but as a joint creation. And that what we were creating, whatever language is comfortable with. But what it seemed to me, the natural language as I understood it, was that we were working to create a conversation together. The conversation was not just something that naturally evolved from A saying so-and-so, B saying so-and-so, C saying so-and-so. It was more of an intentional activity of the numbers of people, whoever they were, 2 or 3 or 4. It was attempting to create something together, to make something together. And if I could succeed in doing that as a listener, then we would have an attachment to that conversation that I think you don't get from merely uttering the next line. And so that was my insight. Jim was giving his. It's a simple insight, but I found it. And then I discovered all kinds of places where I had already learned that. After I learned it in the experience of directing, then I went back and discovered that this is really what Wittgenstein was talking about. This was 30 years after I'd last read Wittgenstein. I finally discovered what he was. I found him utterly incomprehensible, and I think that's because he is. This is the philosopher Wittgenstein, who's a very bright guy, exceedingly smart, but I never knew what the hell he was talking about. And I discovered the reason why I didn't know it is I wasn't listening. I wasn't participating with him in anything. We weren't making anything together. I was just reading him. And then I discovered this to be true for lots of people, myself and lots of people. And then I discovered it was true for most of my best friends. And it was something of a sad but also enlightening experience to realize that if you want to listen to someone, this is for me, you gotta create something off of what they're saying, and they off of what you're saying, but that's their problem. I'm on this side of that. And it's like, I don't want to use this word lightly because I don't take it lightly, but it's a little bit like a revolution. I suddenly realized that I had that capacity, not as a special capacity, not as some special gift, but that as a human being, it was possible for me to take other human beings that seriously. Okay. That I don't want to just hear what you think. I want to work with what you think. I want to create with what you think. And I want to see where that goes. And I want to be a participant in your conversation.